everyone. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. So I just had this thought. This comes up in many different ways over the last 40 years of my practice. I'm sure I had these thoughts myself. It's been a long time. But the benefit of comments from you folks and emails that I get, it reminds me oftentimes of my earlier practice and issues that, I need a refresher for my own struggles sometimes to be a more effective communicator, more effective at sharing my own insights, hopefully in the pursuit of helping you with your own, right? So here we go. Something I guess I'll call the orange analogy. And the analogy is about our relationship with this mandala. Why do we chant the Daimoku, and why this mandala? Why is it so important? And this goes back to what is the Daimoku. So I guess I'll start by laying a little bit of groundwork. For one thing, languages, ancient languages like Sanskrit and different forms of Sanskrit like Pali, were languages that took into their very nature of communication, inflection, notes, singing kind of practices, because there were far fewer words, and communication therefore was more conceptual. So to describe certain things, larger concepts were kind of glued together or arranged in a particular manner that led you to understand what it was that was being indicated by language. And we can easily see that pictorially when we start to learn about calligraphy, for instance, and how words are constructed with a house, a human, above or below. Those pictograms are concepts glued together and intertwined in order to mean something. Okay? Whereas today, certainly with English, we have words, we have a language that's far more dissecting of every little thing, and thusly more grounded on the ephemeral as permanent. See, our desire for attachment even manifests itself through the evolution of language, so that words have an entity unto themselves. They're no longer conceptual, they're identity of some specific thing. Does that make sense? I don't want to think about that too much. I just wanted to open that door to your thinking, because when we think about chanting, first of all, you've heard me say before in several videos that it's not about the particular characters themselves. And then it dawned on me that maybe I could do a better job of explaining this using English. And I thought of orange, the word orange, O-R-A-N-G-E. O-R-A-N-G-E. 6 characters. When we use the word orange, we don't think about how it's spelled, generally. We don't think about the origins of the word. We actually assign that to a funny little footnote in the dictionary that says etymology, and tells you about, well, it came from an old word in Old English that's a translation of a Greek, that's an interpretation of Latin, and so on and so forth, and came from or and a and whatever. We take it apart that way. But I want you to think for a minute that if you considered Before I jump to that, Myoho Renge Kyo is the Japanese phonetic sound of the characters of the title of the Threefold Lotus Sutra, or the Lotus Sutra, actually, not Threefold, the Lotus Sutra. In Sanskrit, it's Sadharma Buddharika Sutram. In Chinese, it's something, I have it all written down. In Chinese, it's something else. In Korean, it's something else. They all are verbalizations of the title of the ultimate culminating teachings of Buddhism. So why don't we chant Nam Sadharma Pundarika Sutram? Nam Sadharma Pundarika Sutram, right? It's Sanskrit. Isn't that closer to the truth, the real? Well, hear me out. Here's the reason. You wouldn't be wrong to do that. But if all you did was chant the word without the depth and profundity of what it invokes, it's not going to work. It's not going to get you there. So the reason that chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo has validity, the Japanese pronunciation of it, at least for us who practice Nichiren Buddhism. Nichiren was a bodhisattva. He was a Japanese bodhisattva who was elucidated and enlightened to this method, this simple method for anyone to attain and experience the Buddha nature in their current form, in the immediate, in this life. And he created that mandala. Now this is what distinguishes Myoho Renge Kyo as a daimoku from other forms. Now, after I'm done, I want you to understand that I do believe that if, for instance, you are Korean and your verbalization of the title of this teaching is slightly different from Myoho Renge Kyo. I don't remember what it was. I apologize, but I'm not even going to attempt it because I don't want to insult anyone. The point I want to make is that if you endeavor to study all of Buddhist teaching, all of Buddhist commentary throughout, as well as other non-Buddhist commentary teaching, and you come to this ultimate teaching of the Lotus Sutra in Korean, and you understand the concepts elucidated and discussed in the expedient means in Korean of the sutra, then I do believe chanting the daimoku in your native tongue will function exactly as it does for myself learning the Japanese, albeit English translation of the sutra and the teachings of Buddhism. I do believe that, because understanding the profundity of the meaning that is captured in this mandala is everything. Now, this mandala isn't in Japanese. It's a little bit Japanese, it's a little bit Chinese, it's a little bit Sanskrit, it's a little bit Pali, it's a combination of them all. So I'm not so arrogant to believe that you can only understand these concepts in one language. But for me, let me tell you how this works. If you were to imagine an orange in your hand, a fruit, orange, and every time you said the word orange, you not only would see an orange, you would see it sliced, you would see it juiced, you would see it on a tree, you would see it in an orchard, you would see the history of the evolution of oranges, all the different types of oranges, all the lineages of oranges, the farmers, the stories around the cultivation of oranges in the wild, in a farm, in an orchard, in juices, in foods, duc à l'orange. If every story and meaning and implication of this simple fruit were invoked, and then stop for a moment and think, well, what about the color orange? The way the color of the peel becomes a crayon for a child for a coloring book, or this sash, or paint in paintings, Renaissance painting, Chinese paintings, Japanese paintings, silk prints, inks, the radiated light of phosphors around a nebula, a galaxy. Think of all of the incredible number of meanings contained in that word orange. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? Imagine reading textbooks in chemistry and physics and color theory and so many references to what that word means. And then go even further. What does the letter O mean? Where does it come from? What's its etymology? What does it signify in physical form? I know in martial arts, certain vowels have certain movement of chi, of changing bioelectric energy into force, manifesting into force. Sa. Hurt. All these sounds in martial arts have deeply significant meaning in their physical manifestation. O-R-A-N-G-E. Just consider if you could have an object, because as humans we relate with objects, with thingness, that could conceptually show you pictures of the orchard, the orange, the juice, the crayon, the ink, the paintings, the history, the etymology, the sound, everything about orange in one compact mandala, that as you study more and more about orange, you can find a section of that mandala that says, that's what this is. This is what this represents. And right down the center is written O-R-A-N-G-E. And then you invoke orange with that mandala. Your mind, your human mind, cannot escape the confrontation of the largesse and the experience and the depth of meaning in orange. That is the import of Nichiren. That he, a Japanese fisherman, studied for decades to awaken and enlighten with the insight to create this mandala so that the Buddha's wish, Siddhartha's original wish, could be accomplished now with a simple mandala and an invocation of the depth of its meaning could enable anyone to immediately experience Buddha-ness. That's the significance of this mandala. This relationship of awakening what is already there, but unobfuscating it, if you will, with the use of this tool, which only grows more significant, more powerful through your study. That is Gohan-san. Does that make sense? So this is my orange analogy. What if you could do that with a word like orange? What if the profundity of your understanding of all those aspects that orange represents, let alone the nutritional value, and I could go on and on. How exhaustive could your study be? So that when you invoke, not just say, but invoke the word orange with that mandala, constantly reminding your human mind of the profundity of this action. Right? It might seem silly, but perhaps in those English terms, the idea of Myoho Renge Kyo and its representative teaching far exceeds any concern with ORANGE. It's not about that, is it? Those are just signifiers, keys to open this massive trove of experience. Hope I'm not oversimplifying, but I think sometimes we need a kind of a jarring little example to get us to appreciate the grandeur of what it is we're doing. So that's all this is. Thanks for listening. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I'm going to let you go until the next the video, but hopefully I've given you something to think about. Comment in the section below. Bye now.